Hi, Ann Cornick from Paintnporcelain, and I'm here to help beginners get started in China painting. And for those of you that have been um, uh, painting a while, I'm here to encourage you to paint along with us. Today we're going to work on the second fire of our roses. As you know, I always work on two plates. I work on a plate for myself to see if things are going to work the way I think they are, and then I work on a plate with you so that you can see what I've done. And the plate that I'm working on for myself, I learned a lot from this time. In fact, I felt a little bit like a beginner myself because I did something that most beginners would do. And that, here, let me show you. This looks a little odd because I'm also testing backgrounds, but this is my second fire. And you see all those millions and trillions of leaves? I went crazy with the shadow leaves, and I certainly did not intend to do that. If you're new to China painting, and this is the first time that you've done shadow leaves, remember that you need to try to hold yourself back and not do as many shadow leaves as I did. Okay, the colors for today will be, I have warm brown green, which I'm not really going to use, but sometimes I find I need it, so I always have it on here. I also have shading green, and I have my Pompadour or my Persian, whichever one. Now, if you used Persian, you won't need the red grape because the red grape will fight it, or the violet of iron will fight the Persian. Persian has kind of a red cast to it. It's going to look terrible with the silver. But if you use Pompadour, you can certainly add the red grape or the violet of iron. I have blue-black, baby blue, a brown of some sort, something dark, and I also have my old ivory. So those are the colors that we're going to be using today. I'm going to start out by putting on here some of the changes that I want for this second piece. Now, when you're doing a second fire, you have the ability to make some changes to what you're working on. So I took my black pencil. I have one of these. They're Stabilos. They're the black pencil. See, Stabilo, S-T-A-B-I-L-O. You can get them in an art store. They work a little better than these red ones. The red ones are Stabilo too, but for some reason they're a harder lead. This one's a softer lead, the black. And so I took and I drew where I want my shadow leaves to be. So I put a couple here. I put 3 over here. I added them at the end of each of these. Can you see them here? I added them at the end of each of these little things that were just sticking out. And I added a couple up in here. And I just drew them in. Now, another thing I realized is that some of my leaves, like these, although they should be smaller as they get longer, are a little too small. So you want your leaf to be about the size of your petal. And so I made these leaves a little bit bigger so that they balance out the rows a little better, and they are shadow leaves. The other thing I wanted to point out to you is that this is an opportunity for you to correct anything on your roses that you maybe, when it fired, it did use, and the lines came off, you realize, oh, that's not what I wanted at all. So here, for instance, and I'll bring it closer so you can see. On this rose, I'm going to cut the top down a little. I also I'm going to make the bowl a little bigger, and I'm going to chop off a couple of these leaves because I think that they're a little too long. And I can do that by applying the background around there and cutting those in. So take a good look at your piece before you do the second fire and determine what you can do to improve it. And right here, for example, I wanted to make that come out a little further, and I can do that because I can put the red over the light blue background and it won't show. In this leaf, for some reason, I connected it like totally wrong, so I'm going to have to make a change here. Maybe make the leaf a little bigger so that it'll work better for me. So Those are just things that you can do that if you notice them on this time, you can actually make some changes to them. Okie doke. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to work with my number 10. This is oops, I think it's a Joyce Burlew. No, it's a Paula Collins number 10. And I've gotten so that I really like it. Something new and different, you know. I try a lot of different brushes. Probably works out well because that way you get to see a lot. Now, I do my shadow leaves in black blue. I do them in black blue because for me, that works the best. And it's just a matter of what works for you. So I'm going to side load with black blue. And I'm going to start probably with these up in here so you can see. And I'm just going to paint them in. Oops, a little too much on there. Just going to paint them in as if they were regular roses, but not really, because I'm gonna not make them as obvious. I'm not making the centers, and I'm not doing the veins or any of that. I'm just painting them in, but I want to get a couple in up here that are just black blue, that are real pretty. Okay, but then I'm also going to be adding some black blue highlights up in that area, or backlights up in that area. So I'm going to kind of go over this petal here, and go over this petal here, just do a wash. That'll put that behind everything else. I'm going to cut in a little here because I want that cut in. Let me get that right. That wasn't quite right. There we go. And then down here is the darkest part, so I am going to use my black blue a little down in there just to give it a little depth. Okay. And black blue is great for that. If you want to tuck this guy under a little bit, you can pull a little over that and then pull it out, and it'll also help you with the background. Okay, now another place I want to put some shadow leaves is right here. And I want to bring this one down because if you can see here, on this one, I want to bring it down because I want to move the top of this one way up here, and I want to bring it down, the top of that rose. So this is where you can make your adjustments. You can add enough, dark enough color that it will do it. And these shadow leaves, you're just painting them in. They don't have to be real strong. You want them just to have some look to them. You're not going to put the veins in. You're just going to kind of put the color in. Put a little here at the end so that I at least know that they look like leaves. And then I'm going to take my dark and go in here. So I'm smearing some of those shadow leaves, making them bigger, but that's fine because they're just there to help balance off your piece a little bit and give you a little more depth. The third set I have is over here, and I'm just going to do those real quick so that they're done so I don't forget any. I'm just pulling across the leaf, just like I would if I were painting that leaf. But I'm doing it very loosely, very loosely. Now I'm going to start putting in my background colors kind of the way I want them. I'm going to do a little more blue up in here. Just a little. And I want to fix this leaf up in here. Now, my focus on the second fire is not so much the background as the roses and the leaves. So up here, I'm going to do a combination of shading green and black blue, and I'm going to pull this here so that it looks more in line with that stem. So if you can see that, I did the stem and I made that leaf like way off center, and I didn't want it to stay that way, so I'm coming back in and I'm just making the leaf bigger by using darker colors. My background is still very light, And so I can get away with darker colors on this. And then I'm going to start going into my greens. This is my shading green that I'm using. Now, I don't want to cover up, oops, I shouldn't have done that. Hang on a minute, let me get rid of that. I don't want to cover up the highlights that I have on here. I'm only painting where I need to put in shadow. So here I'm going to paint on this side because that's going to be in the shadow. This will be in the shadow here. This is a shadow here. And I'm moving up this way. I want a little depth down at the bottom here, and there too, because you don't want it to be like a line down the middle. And that just gives me enough there. And then I'm going to come over here and start putting in some baby blue, because that's kind of what I had back there, but I'm not going to go out too far with it. I'm just going to do enough to make sure that I can define this rose right here, because the rose is what I'm working on. I'm going to add a little blue black, because on this rose right here, I said I wanted to cut that side down. See how much further the rose goes beyond my pencil marks? So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take the blue black and the baby blue, and I'm just going to wipe it there. Do you see? Instantly, it did exactly what I wanted it to do. It cut that rose exactly where I wanted it to be cut. Okay. And then I have a few more leaves out this way. Now these leaves, for some reason, did not get any stems. I don't know why that happened or how that happened. And if you want to make your leaves a little bigger, you can, but these are further away, and so they aren't going to be that big. So I'm just sort of filling them in. I just want a little color on them, not a whole lot. Okay, and I'm going to start using my shading green now in my background. And there are places where you could go right over the leaf, and if you do, that's fine. Because that'll blend it into the background. You won't have quite so many leaves in one spot like that. I always side load when I'm doing the background. Okay. I know I'm jumping around a lot, but I've got most of that done. I do need to put in some, some stems here, but I haven't done that yet because I want to let it set up a little bit. So I'm going to go over here and make sure that I have my colors over here on this side. Put a little blue here because you don't want the blue to just stop. There we go. And I'm just sort of feathering it out into the background. My light is coming from up here, and if you need to put another X up there so that you remember, do it. Put your little X up here so that it'll fire off and you'll remember where you had your light coming from, okay? And then here I want a little more blue around up in here so that it just shows up a little nicer. There we go. You see how just putting that little bit of blue there really helped? Okay. Then I'm going to do the bottom here, getting down to near this guy, and we're just going to put some blues back in here because I don't really want this all to be dark. At this point, you'll be amazed at how easily you can mix your paint colors. And you can pull a little green into the blue, a little blue into the green, and it's all going to come out pretty cool. So I'm just putting a little bit of color around this so that I have something to work with. And up here, here's another place that I wanted to cut that little lump out. So I'm going to take a little bit of, I think in this case, a little bit of shading green, and I'm just going to put it over that. And then pull it into the background. Now on this, you still can see a little of it. But then I'm going to go in and start working on the rose there. And when I do, you won't see it as much. Okay. And the final blues I'm going to put in are down here because I just want to have something to work from. I'm just using my number 10 brush this time. And when you go to the shadow leaves, you can go right over the shadow leaves. That's fine. I like the turntable because it really helps you get your backgrounds in evenly, because you can turn it and it changes your angle without you having to think about quite so much. And we put a little blue up in here. Okay. So now it's time to start working on the rose. Now, like I said, if you have Persian, stay with your Persian. But if you are using Pompadour and you have red grape or violet of iron, you can use that because it really does a nice job of adding some color to your rose. Oops, blew that. There we go. So on this one, I do the outside edge. Here I'm just going to do a little bit of the outside edge, and down here, it looks like it ran a little in there, so I'm going to have to make sure I do a good job of putting the color on. Oh, maybe a little too strong. You don't want it quite that strong up in that area. And that's when you feather. You go one way, then you go the other way, and that helps you feather the color. And then at the bottom, I'm going to have a little, these little guys down here. I'm using Pompadour and red grape, and I'm just using them sort of together. Or violet of iron if you have violet of iron. Okay. Now, up in here, I need to wipe out the top of this because the little sepals got buried. And I'm going to want to do them over. So, pull the color back in. There we go. Pull this up this way a little, down this way a little. There we are. Okay. And the sepals I'm going to do, I've got a super micro brush. Have you ever seen these? Oh, here, let me get it in the picture here. Micro brush. They're really cool. And if you're trying to do something itty bitty like this, like these little sepals, and not mess them up, it's a great little gizmo to have. It will help you with them, make them show up without going into something you don't want to go into. There we go. Okay, and this leaf I'm just going to let disappear because I really don't like it. I'm a little upset that this ran right here, and I didn't notice it till I was painting it. Now I'm still in the red, and a little bit of side load of red grape. I'm going to work on my main one here. I'm just going to add a little more depth. And if it's too much, I can always take it off. I'm going to also put a little in here and here. Just trying to give a little bit of shading to that side. My light is right here, remember? And up here, I kind of cut it there we go, too sharp. So, and down here, it's going to need it. This is red grape only now that I'm using. And down here, it's going to have some shadow, so. And I think that really helps. And this side, I'm just going to put a little bit of, a little bit of depth. Oh, that's a little too much. Hang on. Way too much. Let me wipe a little out. I want it to be there. Now we're getting it. And I'm going to take a little of this just on the, I'm going to take a little red grape on the very edge, and I'm just going to go, you can see I've got this slice across the middle here. I don't know if you can see it from there. Can you see it from here? I'm going to back it up so that it shows a little better. See? You can do that too. And that will make a big difference. You can even do it around the top a little bit if you want. Like here, you can cut in and out. Make it a little fancier. You have a lot of control when you're just painting where you need to. Then I'm going to put a little on this side, just at the base. And I mean a little. This is the same weird color. It's the new color. And then I'm going to take my eraser, my stub, my whatever you want to use. You can use a stub. This is a stub. You can use an eraser that's a wedge eraser like this, which is what I used for years and years. I tend to use this side more because I don't think it leaves as many lines. And if you're in a really fine area, you can use the Paintnporcelain if you have it. I think the stub was getting a little large for me here. So I think I'm going to start with my smallest, the Paintnporcelain, and see what I can get out of this and then work from there. I just want to make sure that I have, and normally I would do this with my brush, but I have had a lot of trouble with my brush bleeding. And I don't know if it's the stuff I'm using or what, the mineral spirits or what, but I have had problems with it bleeding. There we go. Come down this way. Come down this way. That's good. I like that. I'm going to turn this over and put a little bit more white down there. That's okay. That's okay. And then I guess, oh, here. Wipe that up in there. Wipe that over in there. Oops. Got a loose hair there. I'm going to pull a little of that blue in. And then up in the crown here, I think I want a little more red right in there. There we go. I'll just pull it down a little. I'm using the side of my Paintnporcelain and wiping it off because the side gives me a little wider a line, which is kind of what I want. And then I'm going to wipe it down a little. There we go. That's my rose. I'm not going to do a whole lot more on my rose right now. And this rose I'm actually pretty happy with because it's supposed to be a background rose. I'm using a mixture of my pomp and my red grape, which I have, but if you have something other than red grape, that's fine. And then up in here, I'm just doing a little pomp because I just want a little more color up in there so I can cut that out a little. Okay, and then I'm taking my red grape here and I'm just going under these petals to kind of give them a, oop. Or you could do this, you could just color it all in and then go back over it. Let me show you, this is easier. Color it in, so you've got the shape you want, and then go back over it with your Paintnporcelain. Oops, my Paintnporcelain's coming off. I'll have to use something else. And then up in here, I'm going to use this guy. Come down that way. This guy, remember I was going to cut him down. See how I cut him down? This leaf over here. That leaf I want up a little higher. And this one I'd like up a little higher. Put that there and there. This is the last chance you have if you want to make adjustments on what you've done. And then you just sort of feather everything out. Get rid of all those. This guy has to be cut down in here. There, that's better. Get rid of all those lines, feather them away. Okay. So now I have all these over on this side where the bud was. I didn't do those last time, so I will do them this time for you. Now these little guys up here, I'm going to wipe out just a tad so they look a little more like shadow leaves. There. 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 And then just kind of go over them real gently, and that will help you with them. I do that because, quite frankly, nobody ever taught me how to do shadow leaves, and so that's my version of shadow leaves. Okay, we're going to put the stems in up here. We said we would this time. I'm using my micro brush again. I'm doing a broken line. Okay. Have all my other stems in? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go up here, and there's a bud right here. It's over that shadow leaf that you have in the background there. I did that intentionally, so I'm going to just feather it down so that the shadow leaf is, here, let me add a little more. I'm going to add a little more to that shadow, oops, a little more to that shadow leaf. Okay, I'm going to work on this bud here. The buds are always a little bit darker because they haven't opened up, so I'm using my red grape and putting it in the middle here. Putting it at the base, and then I'm going to pull a little up to the top. Oops, that didn't work, did it? No, there. And then I'm using a size 2 brush. And then I'm going to take, I wish I had a little bit of chartreuse, but I will do it with the brown green. I'm going to outline and come down. And on this side, I'm going to make it bigger and then come up. And down here, I'm going to make the little ball that's at the base. I got to do that with a little bit of this color too. There we go. And have it come up. And we need a little more red down in here. You can take your micro brush and do a little bit of fancy outlining if you want. Just to give it, like I'm using a blue-black here, just to give it a little, so you can kind of see where it is, because it is kind of mangled in the background there. But that's my bud there, and there's a bud here. That's kind of an odd place for a bud, I admit, but I put it there, so I guess I have to do it. And I'll just do one side of it like this. I don't really want it to stand out too much. Okay, now I have this thing up here. I wasn't real happy with it, so what I think I'm going to do is put background over it. It's up here, let me show you. It's this area up here. I think I'm going to put background over it, and then I'm going to put more leaves on that and just kind of let it fade into the background. So I'm going to take my shading green and my baby blue, and I'm going to kind of mix them together. And you know, when you're testing, if you're like me, you go around and you put the color on like this and say, yep, that works, or no, that doesn't work. And if I like it, then I start fading it into the background. I'm not touching the center section at this time. You only paint what you need to on the second fire. And I might put a little bit of the green around the edges because I just think it makes it pretty sometimes. Oh. If your brush starts separating on you, just press it or add a little more oil and press it. Mine is acting up, so pressing it didn't work. I added a little more oil and I pressed it. I think I need more blue up in here. How do I decide what color goes where? It's whatever I think I like. I try to stay in the same family. So blue and shading green has blue in it, and blue, baby blue are all kinds of the same family. So, but I switch around between them, and then I always add a light. It can be a pink, it can be an ivory, like the ivory I have here. But I always add a light, and the reason I do is just to give it a little variety. I just get sick and tired of the backgrounds all being a solid color. Now, we're on this side here. I have to bring it there in order to paint it. Oh, you can see good. Okay. 10 is a little large. Maybe not. Let's try. You always use the largest brush you can. Oh, gosh, I do need chartreuse. Okay, I didn't tell you you need chartreuse, and I try real hard only to use the colors I say you need. But when I'm painting and it becomes obvious to me that a color is missing, then I try to get it. Either that or a moss green. Here's chartreuse. And here's a little moss green. I'll put that on my palette. I think you need a little bit lighter out in that area, and that's the reason I'm going with it, because the other colors are going to stand out too much, and I really want these leaves to be kind of an afterthought. And I might just make them blue, you know, the shadow leaf kind of thing. So, okay, right here I'm going to make this a shadow leaf kind of thing. Boop, boop, boop. But this guy needs a little definition. Here we go. I'm putting a little green on him, a little lighter green on him. I just think that helps. And it'll also help this bud right here, I think. There, yeah. And then this guy could use a little lighter green. This guy could use a lighter green. Yep, that's what I thought. And this one I can do a light green with a little bit of, oh, this brush is just too big. I get a smaller brush. I'm using all quills today. I went away from quills for a really long time. A quill is this kind of a brush with the plastic in the wrap. And then you have the metal ferrule, which is this kind of brush. I went to these for a long time when I was a beginner because I found that they were easier for me to control. But for smoothness, you can't beat the other. It's just fabulous. And so I'm back again on this. You know, everybody goes through phases. This is my new phase. Okay, here. This is a 4. And I'm just doing this guy a little bit. This guy needs a little here. So we at least know what he is. And I need a little more color on the stem, I guess. And then I'm going to have to put a darker color over that because I didn't want it to show up so much. I'm taking my micro and I'm just doing the stem a little better. There we go. Now remember, we have another whole fire to do on here. And one of the reasons why I haven't done a lot of background on this is because we still have another whole fire to go. But I think I'm going to bring this dark down this way a little more. Boop, 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 boop. It's a C, and you just kind of pull it out. I'm trying to hide this. I want this to be more, and I just put in those stems, but I guess I can redo those. Blurring the edges there. Should have done this first, obviously. But I wanted this to be darker. I can do a wash on the next fire on this section, so it doesn't really matter. That's a little better. Okay. Alrighty. And then I'm just gonna wipe out a few of these sections to separate these leaves so we can see them. There we go. There's a little there. There we go. Maybe a little here. Then squint your eyes. If you squint your eyes at this, you'll see what it looks like. And the lines that you drew on here will go away. Then look at it, decide what else you need. Now this is just the second fire. The next fire is when I'm really going to amp up the background and really finish it off and add some drama. You still want your highlights on this fire. You don't want to lose them entirely. And saying that, I should put them back on that rose, huh? And maybe the end of the rose too, there. And maybe this side here, there. Okay. You're going to sign it. This needs a little more definition here. Let me show you now. This is what we have for this fire. Let me put this over to the side. By the way, you can also use this to wipe off the edge, and make sure you do that before you put it in the kiln, because you don't want paint around the edges if you can help it. So just wipe off the edge with the sponge. Okay, I'm going to set this over here. I'm going to show you what your homework is. This is the plate that I did first. Now, let me tell you something about this plate. Do you see all those millions and millions and millions and trillions and billions of shadow leaves? I went nuts. And if you look at that, and you see they're all like in here, and you look at this one where they're all like on the sides, I think this balances out the plate better than that does. So I was glad I did this first. This is the second plate, the second fire. It's already fired on here. So what I did was I picked several different blues and I did the background test with the blues. So this is baby blue. This is a turquoise right here. This is a turquoise. This is forget-me-not blue, which I thought was going to be the winner. This is cobalt. I really like the cobalt with the pink. That's just me. I like it dark. So it's between these two for me. And then this is black blue, which is out of the running because I don't like it. So what I want you to do is when you get the second fire done on your plate, I want you to take your blues that you have, take a couple of light ones like baby blue, air blue's a little too light, I think, but baby blue, cool shadow, any turquoises that you have, try those. Try some mediums. If you have forget-me-not blue, cameo blue, anything like that. If you have navy, try navy. If you have cobalt, try cobalt. And just go around your plate and put the color on and leave it sit overnight. And then the next day, come back and look at it and decide which of these colors you're going to use for your background. And that will then determine the way your plate is going to look. And if you want to picture it all over your plate, then you just put your hands up like this and you can see what that would look like all over the plate. Okay. This is your homework. Find the color you want for your background, and I think you can see it better now because the light's better up here. You'll be able to decide then what color you want your background to be. And whatever color that is, that's what you add to your palette for next time. We're going to finish them up next time. Fire what you have. It will end up looking great, and then we're going to really work on the outside and trying to just give it some drama, okay? Alrighty. Thank you very much for watching. Pick up those brushes. Keep painting. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed the program. And I hope you'll take a minute to subscribe so that other people can learn more about China painting and we can get the word out to more people. You also can look at the links below. My paintnporcelain.com website has a lot of freebies and printables for new and experienced painters, as well as studies, supplies, and even some of my hand-painted china. So thank you again, and I'll see you next time.